Call this evening's meeting to order. The regular Plan Commission meeting of September 7th, 2017. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. And we have roll call, please.
What do you want? No, I know. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Croner? Stanton?
Here.
Coran? Engel?
Here.
Manny?
Here.
Gatto?
Here.
Gray? Shaw?
Here. Okay, we have a quorum. And communications, I do have proper notice of the two public hearings we have this evening. Thank you very much. And we will begin with the first item, which is approval of the minutes of the August 17, 2017 regular meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Stanton. A second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Manny. Okay, any comments or corrections on the minutes? They looked rather brief, so there we go. Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes from the August 17, 2017 meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Excellent, thank you. Okay, our next item on the agenda is item number 1. It is a public hearing for the text amendments to the Village of Tinley Park zoning ordinance, section 3.n.6, outdoor sales displays. With that, do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion, Commissioner Stanton, second.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Engel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Excellent. Thank you. All right, so we have a public hearing. At this time, I would like to swear in any petitioners, objectors, or other interested persons. Gentlemen, are you here for item 1 this evening? Okay. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to present is the truth? So help you? Yes. Thank you. All right. Anybody else care to speak this evening on this item? No? Okay. All right. So with that, I will again confirm that we have proper notice published for this hearing, and we will then begin with the staff presentation.
Over here, because I usually look at that other one. We did good, but we only have one screen active tonight. So we did a workshop on this at the last meeting. I believe everyone was there except Ken, but I've had an opportunity to kind of talk about this with uh-oh. Uh-oh. There we go. Scary. With Ken. But we have 2 text amendments tonight. This is the first. This is regarding outdoor sales display. And this was brought to light to us actually by the Great Escape, and that is the gentleman here this evening, because as they built their new facility on LaGrange Road.
Well, I hate to interrupt you as you're just getting geared up, but I don't believe we have the presentation, the screen.
PowerPoint?
Does anybody have it?
No. Okay.
That's a problem.
How
You want me to come up
dependent? How dependent on
I
that
think
screen?
you
is
should
it?
see it.
Okay, all right. Well, then we'll take a brief pause while
You
we
know what I meant?
figure this out. No switches up here I need to hit, are there?
It's usually top. Did you ever have it up there?
Nope.
No.
You never did.
Nope.
You know, let's be free. Would you mind coming and sitting out here and just watching the PowerPoint?
I think we could probably do that.
Okay.
Any technical AV issues with doing that? No?
No, they can see it. The public can see it. It's just, we miss our Stephanie. She was our technological wizard, so.
You guys want to throw?
No, you know, we're free and easy here at the village. It's in our DNA. We're playing musical chairs.
Oh, there you go. I was waiting for that.
How about that? And do you see our new PowerPoint template takes our new brand into consideration? So, as I was saying, the Great Escape, as you know, they built their building back there in 2015, 16? And at that time, they were not interested in outdoor storage. They had other issues they were dealing with. But since that time, they've come to us and said, you know, hey, we've got American Sales just down the street. They can, and they're in Moreland Park, and they can display whatever they want out there. We're feeling that this is a commercial disadvantage. We sort of went back and looked at our ordinance, looked at it in comparison to surrounding communities, and found our ordinance fairly restrictive in the sense that the only thing we were providing in terms of company, around, the only thing we're really providing for outdoor storage here in Tinley Park was related to annual garden sales. So, you know, the things that you typically see at Jewel and so forth, those are the things that we were allowing. And over the years, there hasn't been, you know, a big push for it. We've had some enforcement issues, and I know at Sears Hardware is an issue. And I think there have been other issues that haven't really been enforced. So we've talked about this before, some inconsistencies in the way that we enforce our ordinance, so that's something that's important to me. We want to be consistent. But we also believe that in this village that we're business friendly. We certainly don't want to give our businesses a disadvantage, especially with our adjacent communities. So with that sort of tenet in mind, we started looking at the outdoor display ordinance. And these were some of the areas in town that we see have chronic outdoor displays, and yet technically they're not allowed. You know, Sam's, even though, you know, I've seen more prolific outdoor storage at other Sam's, but this still isn't something that would be allowed per our code. And then on a minor level, like the shelves, we've got some of these permanent displays, you know, the propane and the mulch, and not necessarily the mulch, that's actually legal in terms of the garden. But let's say a red box or an ice machine, those things are out there permanently. So as we started kind of assessing this, we said it seemed to kind of fall out into three categories that we needed to look at outdoor display. The first one would be level 1, and that's kind of how we've been regulating it for years, is seasonal garden supplies. And so we decided that would be our first level. I'm following myself. And the second level would be those that are there year-round, and they're kind of minor, and I would say they have to be ancillary to the principal use of the building. So, you know, you have propane tanks outside of Walgreens. You know, maybe there's an ice machine outside of a liquor store. But we're not regulating them right now, and it has come to be a problem sometimes because I think there are more aesthetic ways to display them. So those would be thrown into category 2. Now, both of those categories, level 1 and level 2, what we're recommending is that those could be handled administratively, so they don't have to flood our agendas at planning commission, provided they meet the criteria. Then you have category 3 or level 3, and those are ones that don't fit basically into either one of these, and they need to be looked at on a case-by-case basis. They're usually larger in scale. It's the Great Escape examples. They really are dependent on the site. You know, some sites have a lot of property, some have less. And so we started looking at those to be dealt with on a case-by-case basis. At the workshop, there were some things that we discussed that I think was important, and we did incorporate them in this last ordinance change. The first was providing some sort of display time that's even less than that garden. Like we talked about sidewalk sales, maybe a 3 and 4 day sidewalk sale. So we need to incorporate that into our ordinance change. Let's see. We also wanted to look at the fees for those, and we were directed to look at adjacent communities of what they're charging. And we wanted to have one charge for those yearly annual to stay out for the whole season, and then we were directed to look at something that would be less, or 3-day. There was also a question about, we had recommended, I'm trying to think what our first recommend, but I think the majority of the board said they wanted to look at an increase in that annual fee for like gardening supplies. And so what we recommended in the code was a $100 fee. For the small 3-day, we looked at $15. And then the last item was the Plan Commission that wanted to make sure that we were getting an accurate plat survey. I think this is something that Garrett had talked about, wanting to make sure that we had an accurate plat survey and a dimension plan whenever these things were requested. So we were consistent in our review of these submittals. In the staff report, you saw that we looked at Orland Park, we looked at Naperville, Richmond, Indiana, and there was really a variety of what the fees were, somewhere as high as $120 at one point. But we sort of looked for the middle of the road, and we came up with $100 for the seasonal good annual. We felt that was appropriate. We also provided some guidelines, so we have appropriate setbacks, so that they aren't encroaching on any right-of-ways, and certainly not on the front yard setbacks. So if someone comes in and applies for a level 1 or level 2, as long as they meet all the conditions in the code, staff can sign off on it. They can always ask for variance, then they're going to have to go through a plan commission process. We looked at maximum sizes. And I think at the end, when I kind of show you the level 1, we came up with 25% of the tenant frontage. I'll just give you an example, like here's Michael's, that came out to be an 18%. But when you looked at 5 below, that was 52%, so this would not be allowed. These are both 1 and 2 levels, but they're at 25%. So kind of gives you an idea of how much coverage you're going to have with the condition that we provided at 25%. And the height of this display can't be any higher than 10 feet. Time-wise, it's similar to what we had before. April 15th to October 15th, and that's the seasonal level 1 display. If they're going to have the smaller special sales, and 6 times a week, 6 times a year, I'm sorry, for 7 days at a time. So for level 2, and these are those permanent, ice machines and so forth. We had the whole application that was required. We still had an annual fee of $100. And then we wanted to make sure that it was 36 inches from these sidewalks. It was all, we wanted to make sure it was still didn't, because a lot of times these are going on those sidewalks right in front of the building. We want to make sure the clearance for ADA is still available. And can't be any further away from the front facade than 15 feet. It has to be at grade level. The size, again, could not exceed that 25% level that we had if it was level 1 and 2 both. If there was only level 2, it can't exceed the 20%. So again, we're kind of getting smaller. This one, you can see, would be beyond our code. This one would be as well. That one would be as well. But CBS is within our code at 10%. So it kind of gives you a visual of what is acceptable. Then the last level, there's another one that's at 16%, so that is within code as well. So the last would be level 3, and these would be done on a case-by-case basis. Would be somewhat like we do our site plan reviews right now, so staff would review it and look at the setbacks, but we would be bringing it to Plan Commission for final sign-off, and then it's a $150 annual fee for that. Once they get their approval, that approval stays in place. There is appeal processes and penalties in the ordinance as well. So that is the ordinance. You have a copy of the ordinance in the packet. And maybe Great Escape might want to make some comments based on.
Can we ask any questions about what we looked over? Is it?
This is your time to come to the podium and make public testimony. You can ask questions.
So
The chairman rules.
Has the, is the staff presentation complete?
Staff was, I'm not.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. At this time, been sworn in from the public.
Press this way?
Now, which way should you stand?
Well,
He wants to go up there, see how it feels like.
You know, it works either way.
It's pretty.
We're going to have to sit here for item
For the next one.
2 as well, so rather than take up time walking.
This is the form that we had, is that the same as what?
The one we sent, imagine Stephanie sent it to you.
Yeah. So where would a tent display, or would a tent sale fall into? Is that a whole separate type of?
Is it just
program?
like a 7-day tent sale
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something?
weekend tent
That would be
sale.
under level 1 if you can meet those dimensions. If you can't, you just bring it in under the level 3.
I mean, the area on the footage, when you're talking about percentage on the frontage, you're only allowing, you know, a percentage of linear feet. Obviously, a tent is in square footage, so it doesn't really explain how large that could be, or, you know, or if that falls under level 3. I'm not
Well,
really
you
sure.
have a percentage of your tenant frontage, and so
Right.
you have a lot of frontage on your building, and so.
Say I had 200 square feet, but I mean, if you're.
Not square feet,
Or
it's just
200
the
linear,
frontage.
200 linear
So
feet
25% of your linear
would only be
frontage is.
40 linear feet, but that's not square footage.
We're not regulating the depth, it's just the linear.
So the tent could only be 40 wide by whatever feet. Is that how I understand it? Okay. All right. And a level 3, level 2 talks about it being a permanent, or it's a year-round display.
The level 2, that would be ice machines, propane tanks,
Right.
something that's permanent.
But in a level 3 scenario, like a swimming pool, we would leave that up all season and all year if possible.
You leave it through the winter as well?
Yes, same with play sets and.
Basketball hoops that we
You know,
cement in the
that
ground.
we
for
repeat the
safety
same
and
model.
security so they don't hurt.
Typically, like in our other stores, we have a display, a permanent display that's fenced nicely, you know, landscaped very nicely. And we have multiple different sizes of a pool, because a pool comes in 15 different sizes. It's a conceptual thing. The consumer needs to visually see how big a 24-foot pool is or how big an 18-foot pool is, because they're buying it, you know, most people don't have the conception of depth and size, you know what I mean? So they would like to see it and say, wow, let's see. Inside the building, we have an 18-foot pool, but everyone thinks it's a 30-foot pool when they see it, because they're like, you know, inside of a building, so
There's
it
walls
looks
behind it,
very
so they
large.
lose the space proximity.
So they have a hard time with
It's a
that,
bone of
with
contention.
understanding the
Because it causes
size.
confusion.
But typically, we would leave the pool display that would just stay up, because it's a winterized item that you can winterize in winter. But we sell pools from January all the way to October, November. We still do pool sales, so we would consider that still a permanent display. It might change every 3 years when the model changes, possibly.
But it's
the
still not a
color.
level 2 because you're not meeting those requirements, so I think.
So
pretty
could it
much
be
everything
permanent
you're
display
gonna
be
do-
in
It's a
3?
level-
Can it be
it's
It's level
permanent?
3, I
That's
think
right.
pretty much everything.
That's
you're
right.
gonna-
But can it be permanent in level 3?
Yes,
It
it
can.
just has to be annually.
Pay an annual fee?
Annual.
Right, okay.
I'm sorry, gentlemen, I apologize if I said this up front. I personally didn't catch which company you're from.
The Great Escape.
Great Escape, I
Oh,
thought so.
I said that in the beginning, I'm sorry.
Did you? I thought so, but I wasn't.
On the
sure.
Grange? On the Grange Road?
Yes,
Okay, that's what I made sure you knew which one, because there's 2 of us on the Grange Road.
okay.
There's American Sail Club, across the way down a little bit north and then or south.
Yep, yep, okay.
The good guys is what we call
We're
But
gonna
if
stay
come
neutral on
to
all of
you,
that.
These larger ones that we're gonna look on a case-by-case basis that don't meet 1 or 2 are gonna come to you.
So, I'm trying to recall the display, but from what you described, it's fair to say that this is not surrounded by a perimeter fence? This
It
is-
would be.
It is?
It would follow
Not currently.
whatever your code is that you require for a consumer, we obviously would fit that code. So if you require a 6-foot fence around a swimming pool, I mean,
Yeah.
all our pool parks and those parks
Yeah, we don't
are
want
fenced
people
in.
wandering that either.
Right, we don't want someone to get hurt, obviously. It's secured.
Oh, yeah, it's a running, yeah, there's a fountain in it, it's great.
Yes.
Yeah, let me clarify the intent of the question. It was, for instance, if you go to one of the home centers, Home Depot, Menards, or something like that, they have outdoor displays that are in their yard, right? So it's
like mowers and grills.
In the storage
that kind
yard
of
in the
stuff.
back?
Yeah, so like in their garden center.
In their garden
you know,
center,
And, you know, so it's actually outside, it's, you know, kind of in a paved parking lot area, but it has a perimeter fence around it, which makes it retail space. And so I'm trying to differentiate.
And because it's on a case-by-case basis, you know, staff and the planning commission can talk about if there needs to be additional screening, if it needs to be, you know, secured off, so all that will be done as part of site plan.
Yeah,
Okay.
we do that, obviously we do that anyway, regardless.
I mean, public safety, it's a swimming pool, so we don't want anyone getting hurt.
Absolutely. For argument's sake, say it was swing sets and not swimming pools.
Yes.
What I'm getting to is I want to make sure that we're not backing ourselves into a corner, trying to differentiate between just standard retail space, which happens to be outside, versus something that is more of this nature, which is like a temporary display. Okay. So that's my reason for the question.
More clarity?
On yours, yes.
I mean, we don't, yeah, did we give you enough clarity, or you need more?
Yes,
clarity?
yes.
Okay, all right.
Any questions from you guys?
I mean, obviously, you obviously understand the need of the need of the outdoor display. We are limited on the size of the building. We can build many of our displays, like in the playset world and the swimming pool world. It requires that additional space to really get proper representation. And obviously, if you've seen American Sales, you know, loaded up on the driveway in the parking lot, which in our case, we have a fairly large lot that is nothing's erected on it. So we have that lot just sitting there that has some potential. You know, obviously the rest of the lot, I think, is pretty much limited to parking, which is necessary as well. So I don't see us putting anything in that type of look. But our products just require a lot bigger display than
So
what we
this
can
will be
offer.
on the south end of the building?
It's actually the north end
Is
of
it
the building.
north?
Yeah. There's about an acre and a half still
Yeah.
that's nothing's been done to it at this point, so that's what we're entertaining.
Okay.
So you've asked questions for clarification and presented some information specifically for your business, which of course you're concerned about. But with respect to the draft, what's being proposed here, do you have comments or questions about that yourself with respect to what's being proposed here? Concerns?
Well, I think what you're doing is definitely pro-business.
Yes.
And, you know,
It's become
again,
user-friendly.
there is, you know, and when you see inconsistencies in some of the guidelines that as a building owners, it's, you know, it's hard when you face those inconsistencies, and at one point you want this, but the other guy has that, even within the same town. I think you're doing the right thing by making that clarity for everybody to live within those guidelines. I think in a level 3 scenario, we're still at your mercy to provide you a drawing, make sure it remains professional. I mean, those are the things we want anyway. We didn't erect the building so we can put up, you know, a schlocky, display. We want it to be pretty. We want people to visualize what it looks like, or what the potential of what it could look like in their backyard only benefits us on the retail side. So I think that, you know, since we fall in that category, you know, presenting you with that stuff, you know, I think in the last meeting they did discuss that the plot survey could be not necessarily a formal plot survey. Is that accurate? Or?
Well, it does have to be a plat survey, so the dimensions are on there, otherwise we wouldn't be able to judge with the setbacks and so forth. So yeah, it has to be a plat survey. I mean, you don't have to go hire an architect for a sealed drawing.
Oh, right.
What you put on the plat survey has to be accurately
Right, right.
depicting what you're looking for.
Okay. All right, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time.
Are we,
You can sit down.
So do we have any other interested parties or objectors or anybody wants to speak? Okay, so hearing none. Any questions from the commissioners? Okay. All right. With that, do I have any, well, we're going to close the public hearing. Sorry. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
so moved.
Commissioner Stanton, second. Second, Commissioner Gatto. She's closer, I heard her. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, so the public hearing is now closed. Do we have any further questions and/or a motion on this matter?
Commissioner Stanton would like to make a motion to recommend the village board approve text amendments to section 3.n.6 outdoor display standards of the Village of Tinley Park zoning ordinance as indicated in staff's most recent draft of the comprehensive outdoor sales display standards. Text amendments dated August 28, 2017. Proposed text amendments would replace the current section 3.n.6 in its entirety and provide new regulations for outdoor sales display areas.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Engel. Okay, could we get a roll call vote, please?
Stanton,
Yes.
Engel,
Yes.
Manny,
Yes.
Gatto,
Yes.
Gray, oh, sorry, Shaw,
Yes. Apologize, I lost count there.
Motion carried.
So motion carries. Okay, thank you very much.
We're almost to the finish line. We will go for first reading. Yeah. So it's the second meeting. I meant to bring my meeting schedule, I forgot. So this, the third Tuesday of this month? I don't know what that date is. We'll have its first reading, and then we'll go to
the 19th.
first Tuesday, thank you. And the first Tuesday in October for your comments. Okay?
Great.
Almost there.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Hi.
You let us know we need to be in
You should be at least in the first.
Yeah, she's gonna have
I think you should probably be in both.
Just let us sending us the dates.
Well, just, again, you can call Barb, but it's the 19th, you said?
19th is the
19th
first
is your
reading,
First reading, and whatever the first Tuesday in October is.
and the first Tuesday would be the 3rd of October for the adoption.
7:30.
Hey,
No,
sure.
7.
No, the board meeting is 7:30.
Board meeting is 7:30.
Oh, that's right. They were back from 8, they were at 8.
In, right here, in this room.
Yeah, they used to be at 8, believe it or not. Thank you,
Thank
John.
you. Appreciate it. Sure. Best of luck. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in and your business.
Thank you.
You're welcome to hang around for the second one.
Barbara's usually pretty much.
We just wrote from the name, so we're going back.
All right.
Thank you guys very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then now we got another one.
Thanks.
Sorry about this, you guys.
That's all right, change of
Are
pace.
they more comfortable seats?
Okay, so, next item on the agenda here. Is item number 2. And I brought my agenda down here with me. I do not have it. Oh, yes, I do. It's right in front of me. I apologize. Okay, item number 2 is another public hearing, text amendment to the Village of Tinley Park zoning ordinance, section 5B, truck rental in the MU1 mixed-use Duvan Drive overlay district. And do we have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion to open, Commissioner Stanton, do I have a second? Second, Commissioner Gatto. All in favor, say aye.
Manny, wasn't it? Manny seconded.
Well, I'm sorry, once again, she's closer to me and I heard it.
Oh, sorry.
I don't even know you're here.
He got one this evening, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, we are in a public hearing, and this is a petitioner is the village, and do we have anybody looking to speak on this matter? No, we don't, so there's nobody to swear in. And I will confirm, stated earlier, that proper notice has been given for this. We on the staff presentation.
I promise to tell you. This is kind of an interesting
That's part of your job.
Yeah. Interesting situation. We were originally approached by a business in the overlay district of Grand Drive, overlay district, that wanted to rent trucks. And as we searched our wonderful zoning ordinance, found that it wasn't allowed. And that there already was someone renting trucks out there. So, in reviewing the text for the M1 district, it became kind of obvious to us that I don't know if it was an oversight, whoever drafted the original M1 overlay district. Obviously, most of you know that area, and it's more of our heavier industrial area. There's a lot of auto, the M1 district actually, MU1 district actually was created to provide vehicle uses, some vehicle uses. This is the area MU1, I don't know, I can't really show you in here, but you know where the aerial is, all along Juban Drive, okay? That's the only area that it is. And the M1 district was added to allow for some leasing of light equipment, heavy equipment, and there's a variety of those types of uses in that area. But there already is a U-Haul truck rental out there, and yet I think it has, over time, really lost a lot of the screening that probably was originally intended to buffer it. I think it's in need of resurfacing for the parking lot. Some of it is gravel. So these are things that we thought was important to address anyway. So we drafted an ordinance, and then it was either right before our meeting last time or the day before, the other business that wanted to rent trucks decided not to do it. But it wasn't for naught. I think the work that we did was important, and at a minimum, we cleared up some inconsistencies in the ordinance. So I think it's important that we go forward with doing it. It also gives us the ability to come back and speak with this property owner, who we've already spoken to see about making some better improvements on the property. So you can see originally on the top grant, like heavy equipment and leasing services were being allowed in MU1. Heavy equipment was allowed, and rental of heavy equipment was allowed as a special use, but vehicle sales and rental was prohibited unless everything was done inside. We also found in the ordinance there was a truck sales was allowed in there, I think it was. But either way, we decided to make specific references to this truck rental in this situation. And as we worked through it even further, we realized that if we, truck rental, vehicle sales are somewhat synonymous. If we're going to allow truck rental, we got trailers, everything else that we needed to clarify that. So we had a real hard time seeing that. So what we cleared up, instead of the equipment rental and leasing services, we removed that so that it was clear, and we put in our definitions for light equipment sales and rental, and that would be a permitted use in the MU district. And then vehicle sales / rental would be allowed, but we gave a definition, as you see on the bottom back down there, so it was very clear what we were talking about. And any kind of vehicle rental, whether it's trucks, vehicles, trailers, is going to be subject to those items. It has to be parked on a paved surface. It can't be parked in parking spaces that are required as part of that of the zoning ordinance for that use. It has to be screened from view, and it has to be parked in a manner that it doesn't block drive aisles or entrances. So some of those things I think the current user out there is in violation of, so we wanted to make sure that those things they're taken care of. We changed the vehicle sales definition. So now it includes standard passenger vehicles and trucks weighing 8,000 pounds or less. We didn't have that before, so it just makes it clear for the ordinance. And those were the major changes. So I don't think, I can't speak for what the original drafters of the ordinance intended, but I have to think in this area, if we're going to have any kind of heavier industrial rental or leases, this would be the place that you'd want it. Doesn't mean we want to just let anything happen. We have certain conditions, so paved surfaces, screening. I think we can still make it attractive. That's it.
I have a question about the 8,000 pounds or less, so that's for the vehicle and truck sales rental. So a truck is over 8,000 fall under like a heavy equipment
Heavy.
aspect.
Yeah, I don't have the definition in here,
Any other questions from the commissioners? Okay. I had a couple questions, and I searched through the minutes of the prior meeting, and I didn't see it in there. I didn't get a chance to watch the prior meeting, although I think Commissioner Croner did a bang-up job.
Yes, he
so good
did.
for him. Is it fair to say that the MU1 is DuVan Drive Industrial Park exclusively, right? And so based on the proposed draft here, as you just said, this use would be restricted to would be only in MU1.
it's an overlay district.
It's an
Or the
overlay.
M1. I think, I'm trying to remember what one you.
Use,
Huh?
something used,
Mixed use, I think it was?
I thought it said multi-use or something like
No, I
that.
think
In
it's
any event, I just wanted to clarify.
Mixed use, DuVan Drive.
I wanted to clarify the intent, that our zoning for this use is effectively the DuVan Drive area.
Right, actually, just right out of code, I should have mentioned this before, is intended to provide for business and light industrial uses in the DuVan Drive Business Park along with some automobile-related uses compatible with the area. So when they first did this, I think they were just trying to address, maybe somebody wanted a body shop out there. So,
There's a couple body shops there.
yeah, that's all I can imagine. Because that's usually, in the B5, so this was, we have a lot of original ones.
Yes. The other thing is, I know that once you started researching this, you realized that there was an existing business there, as you discussed. To your knowledge anyway, are there any other businesses throughout the town in a different district that are renting vehicles?
Well, no, I didn't research that. I was really
Right.
concerned about the MU1 district, so no, I couldn't tell you if somebody is not where they're supposed to be.
Okay, those are my questions.
But if you find somebody, let me know.
Well, first of all, I wanted to confirm my understanding of what the zoning, the proposed zoning is. And therefore, if we happen to have another business in town, it would probably be a good idea for that business to know that they're operating outside the zone. And then we-
Usually all the automotive uses are B5. That's pretty much where they all exist. And that's not unusual. A lot of communities separate their automotive uses from everything else.
I actually, on that note, one of the reasons I would clarify that is I actually think that's a good idea, the DuVan Drive Park being one of the older areas in town, and it has some vacancies and it has some potential there. I think limiting a particular use to that area is wise, because if somebody wanted to open such a business, that's where they can go. And it would funnel them right directly to an area that could stand to be revitalized a little bit. Okay, so with that, if there are no further comments, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Move Commissioner Stanton, second.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Engel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. The public hearing is now closed. And given that there will be no further staff presentations, head back up, we can do that. Otherwise, full either way. settling in, I will entertain a motion on this item.
Oh,
Any-
I wasn't paying attention. Didn't they already vote on it?
No.
Or just closed?
No, we just closed the public hearing, so at this point, I'm entertaining a motion with
Someone had,
respect
they can read it, because
to...
otherwise it was up there. Do you know your staff report?
It's on the staff report.
Somebody have one? So they don't have it up there?
Here, I have
Here,
it.
Okay.
I got one.
You got one?
It's in the staff report, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, Commissioner Stanton would like to make a motion to recommend that the village board approve text amendments to Section 2 definitions and Section VB, Schedule 1, Schedule of Permitted Uses of the Village of Tinley Park zoning ordinance as indicated in staff's most recent draft of the comprehensive vehicle rental text amendments dated on August 28, 2017. The proposed text amendments would amend the definition for vehicle sales and rentals in Section 2 definitions and amend portions of Section VB Schedule 1 to allow vehicle sales and rental as a special use in the MU1 overlay district, subject to certain conditions listed in the new footnote K. The proposed text amendments would further clarify Section VB Schedule 1 by changing equipment and rental and leasing services to read light equipment sales and rental. Additionally, the proposed text amendment will remove vehicle sales and rental, internal display only, as a category and list the internal display only caveat within the new footnote K. The subsequent footnotes will be realphabetized accordingly.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second on the Commissioner Stanton's motion?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Gatto. Could we get a roll call vote, please?
Stanton?
Yes.
Engel?
Yes.
Manny?
Yes.
Gatto?
Yes.
Shaw?
Yes. Okay, motion carries. So this will go to the village board with the same timing as item number 1, I assume. And all of that will be properly published in notice. Great, good work. Moving forward, we will move on to good of the order. And I believe Paula has a few items to update us on.
Yes. First is, my surgery is next Tuesday. I'm so excited. I have my knee replaced. So I'm going to be out of commission for a little bit, but you are going to be in excellent hands. Besides Stephanie, who's wonderful and takes care of you so well, we have hired Ellen Weber. She'll be the interim community development director supervising building and planning in my absence, which hopefully won't be too long. She's been working here for a week and a half, helping me with some long-range planning, but when I leave next Tuesday, she'll sort of step in and handle some of the supervisory responsibilities. Stephanie's back on Monday, thank God, and when she left, she had no idea I was having surgery the next day, so we thought we'd have a little more time, but this is good and actually fits really well on our schedule with some of the larger projects coming up, so I'm hoping I'm going to be back and plenty of time to work on those. Some of those projects, as you know, and I've been keeping you up to speed on the residences. I met with the developer twice now since we had our resident meeting. The proposal right now is looking at a 4-building proposal, and we will meet with the residents from Brookside Glen on Monday to present the latest site plan to kind of make sure we're still on target and get their support so that as we move up through the planning commission process, we have a little more smoother approval process. That's my hope. They still retain all the luxury amenities. It's just basically making for a smaller building. We also have tentatively scheduled now, I know we've been talking about the boulevard. So the residences are coming on the 19th, I believe it is. Is that correct, October 19th? I meant to bring my meeting schedule. So I think it's the second meeting in October will be the workshop, is what I'm hoping to do. So I should be back in plenty of time for that. And then the first meeting in November would be their public hearing. And then the second meeting in November will start on the boulevard. So it'll be boom, boom, boom. So hopefully my goal is to have those 2 large projects all done by the end of the year. Woodman's is still, I'm surprised that we're not getting a little more information on that. I did get a call from 2 of the brokers, and so I'm going to have a phone conference with them just talking about process, but I have no site plans. I know a lot of the public has been asking about it, but I don't have anything in my hands yet. But they want to they're doing their due diligence to see how long the process would take and what it would cost and so forth. Bain Gavel, got some plans in, is that last week? Or just this week?
Yesterday.
Well, you can tell how my timing is going. So I'm hoping to get that all done, and that would be at your, not the next meeting, yeah, it would be the next meeting, I think. I'm really at a loss without my meeting schedule here, but I think I have that scheduled. I'm trying to get that ready for the packet that will go out next Friday. And so that'll be at your next meeting. And that's just a site plan. Some of you have been involved in that project. We have a subdivision plat we have to approve and then a site plan. And it's kind of cool. They're looking at a lot of, outdoor beer garden and a performance stage. So
Where's that at?
that's the boat building, the historic boat building
yeah.
Down Oak Park Avenue, just on the south side of the train station.
Paul, in terms of order of things coming through, the subdivision plat, it's actually consolidation of?
No, it's
or
an actual subdivision
replatting?
of the property, because with the incentive agreement, the village is purchasing a portion of their property.
Oh, okay.
So I needed to wait until they gave me a site plan to do the subdivision plat. So
Okay,
we were-
that's what I was asking, which comes first?
Yeah.
Chicken or the egg there, but
Yeah.
that makes sense. You're not gonna know where to subdivide it
Right.
until you have.
Right, and that's why I'm doing them both together.
Gotcha.
Because I also want to make sure that the parcel that they retain keeps one parking space as part of their plat, because they have a residence upstairs. Been working with Lakota on the downtown placemaking plan. I think our latest title is placemaking plan, that kind of looks at the location of the plaza, as well as they're going to assist me with some of the reviews of the development projects that are downtown. So it's nice to have another eye looking at this. They met with the chairman, met with property owners, met with all the trustees, met with Main Street representatives and the branding committee. So they had 2 really full days that they met with the stakeholders, as they call them, to try to get their input on what they envision the downtown to be, and then to impart back to them some of their professional opinion about the typical things that they have seen in other communities. So they tell me that was an amazing 2 days, very full, but I'm waiting for the summary of that. That is considered phase 1 of their proposal, and we should be probably through that right about when I come back. And they also have a phase 2 of that proposal that looks more at the branding aspects of the downtown. And so that phase should be happening next week, and Donna Kramke will be leading that. I'm handling phase 1, she's handling phase 2. Ken, you had asked me about the Tinley Park Mental Health Center. There really is no new news on that. We are waiting for the state to finish their appraisals. And then once that is done, we'll come back and visit that. We're working on...
Is it fair to say that the process or the plan that was originally communicated is effectively, we're moving on the same timeline, it's just we've
It's
paused?
just suspended. It's probably the best way to look at
Yeah,
that.
I wanted to make sure that was clear to,
Yeah.
public's going to be interested in
Yeah,
that.
it's not done, And then we're still working on a tax increment financing district downtown. This is critical. We're not going to see any development downtown unless we have some financing mechanisms. So we've hired Ellers, and Patrick Hoban, our economic development manager, is handling that. And he is working to kind of get that approved by April, so that we are in a position to move forward, for example, like with the boulevard, which is going to need some incentives. So we have the TIF district in place, we have the ability to look at possibly an incentive package for that project. I think that's all I have. I'm sure I'm missing something. I usually bring in my meeting sheet and I forgot to bring it.
How is Freedom Pond moving along?
How is what?
Freedom Pond, isn't that what it's called?
Oh, yeah, Pandora Pond?
Yeah.
Yeah. Legacy Pond?
Yeah, whatever it's called.
I don't
It's
know.
called Freedom
It's
Pond.
Freedom Pond.
It's Freedom Pond, yeah. this
So that's
project.
moving along okay? And
Yeah, you know, it's a public works project, so I'm not that
Okay.
involved in it, but I think if we have a problem site, I would have heard about it. Haven't heard anything negative.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from the commissioners? No. Okay. I had a couple of points here. You mentioned Stephanie's going to be back, so I was reading through the minutes of the last meeting. Go to the order. They talked about Stephanie was getting married, so congratulations to Stephanie. We'll say that when she gets back, so I'll just throw it out there.
Her new name is Malmberg.
Malmberg.
We'll stick with Stephanie. So, seriously, congratulations. We'll tell her when she gets back. In the go to the order last time around, it was announced that we did have a plan commissioner resign, and so we currently still have an opening. Some candidates have submitted resumes. It's still open. I've been working with Commissioner Glatz to make recommendations to the mayor. I have made some myself, but if any of you or the public have good candidates in mind, by all means, no decisions have been made and or announced. But for me personally, and hopefully you guys here and the staff, it'd be nice to fill every seat so that we don't have to worry about quorums, and anyone who needs to get on board to be trained and acclimated can do so. Paula's knee, so good luck on that.
Thank you. Send chocolate? No, I'm just kidding.
And Godspeed, and hopefully smooth recovery. And as we've discussed, I've had the knee surgeries myself, not replacement, thank goodness, but I do know how painful those can be. So
Don't tell me that.
I actually hear that the full replacement is far less painful than ACL.
Piece of cake.
repair. Yeah.
Piece of cake.
I am told there's quite a few drugs that are going to be at my disposal.
Those are always the perks.
Oh, yes, we're being taped, yes, that's true.
And so the last point, you mentioned meeting with the residents on the residences, and that you have another meeting coming up soon.
Yes.
I would ask if you could, in that meeting, to ask that community group if they have any thoughts or recommendations on process improvement, if they haven't already offered it to you unsolicited. Obviously, that was a process that could have gone smoother, and if they have any recommendations about the shoulda, woulda, coulda, about what they would have liked to see, and how the process could have been different in their eyes. Those folks have been actively involved, and if they have any thoughts or ideas, it would definitely be worth hearing. At least opportunity for them to say, well, from our perspective, we think things would have gone smoother if this had happened. Not necessarily a lot of things that we could do. The process quite often is the process, but it's worth hearing people out.
Well, I have to say, controversy happens, regardless of what you do with the process.
Absolutely.
And Gordo was part of our CAC, and one of the recommendations that came out of that we still need to implement was, and we did a lot of them, was making sure that the public is informed. So, I guess, for the public to not feel they're being informed, they're not really buying that at the moment, because we've really improved our platform in terms of a website, live streaming. One other thing that we had talked about was posting a sign on the property, and that's something we still
Yes.
talked about doing. But in terms of controversy, I think it's unrealistic to think that we're going to have neighborhood meetings on every project that comes through. what should happen and what we are doing is if there's any hint of controversy or if there's, I mean, we're a small community still, if we would have known that was going to be controversial, we certainly would have had neighborhood meetings. There was no indication from the elected officials or the staff that this was going to be met with the controversy that it did.
Yep.
But point in fact, the boulevard, for example, you know, I already have heard, because, you know, I attend all the meetings of the board meetings, that there is some concerns about that. So that's raised a red flag. So we are in the process of trying to put together some people that could represent that area, and I would take any names. Again, I don't, you know, to work through details of a project with 150 people in the room is not efficient. What's worked well with the Brookside Glen group, they have sort of appointed some representatives, and we have between 4 and 5 people at those meetings. And so we can sort of roll up our sleeves and work through it. But I'm always open for improving things, but I guess I just want to be somewhat protective of our staff, and that if we had had any hint that there was going to be that amount of controversy, we would have approached it differently.
I would echo that, and the live streaming of and recording of commission meetings has certainly gone a long way towards informing the public, as well as kind of expanding and extending this part of the meeting, the good of the order, to kind of talk about what's in the pipeline and ask some questions and kind of go back and forth. I absolutely agree with you. You know, even to the extent for, you know, our notice on public hearings. The village staff makes a very solid, good faith effort to get the word out, short of going out door to door and dragging people to meetings. You know, there's not a whole lot you can do.
Woodman's, that's another good example, because I wasn't here, but I knew that property had some controversy before. I've already talked to some of the people that were pretty involved in that when it was Walmart. So when we get some plans, we'll certainly want to contact some of those people and float those plans around. So.
Excellent. With that, any additional comments? Anything that sparked from the commission?
Well, just to, you know, further comment on what you indicated based on the meetings that we had in the past with the Citizen Advisory Group, that we should, I know we talked about posting the signs.
Yes.
But I think we talked about it, but I think we should then get it done and start posting that sign. Because as you mentioned, we do have live streaming, so for some people, some residents don't, you know, do live streaming or any social media, so they're out of the pocket in that sense. So at least if they're out about in the community and they do see the sign, they can step out, get out of the car, what have you, read it, and say, okay.
So that's a sign for any development going on?
Yeah, and it's posted on the site. We've started looking at costs, and it's just been an issue of prioritization.
I mean, that's
but I will
something,
push it up.
an example would be when I know they were putting in that on Harlem Avenue, it's not a retirement, assisted living center, I think it is, or right
The
there.
Orland Park right across the
So for
street.
the longest time, people would be asking me, like, you know, do you know what's going in there? And I didn't know at that point. That was a good example. If there would have been a sign there, everybody would
Well,
be
this
asking.
is prior to anything. What people have done in some communities, not every community, you have a sign that says public hearing.
Right.
And the ones I've been looking at
Orland Park
pricing.
does that, and they
Yeah,
did it
there's
on.
different
yeah.
pricing and everything, and you know, in the old days, I'd have to letter on a piece of paper and
Right.
tape it on there. I mean, it's really, so some communities just make the developer do it as well.
Right.
So we've looked at some things, and I apologize, it just hasn't been the highest priority, but I'm.
But I think, yeah, I think it should be.
Okay,
You know,
I
I mean,
agree.
we talked about it, that's great, because you could talk about it all, you know,
Right.
get many meetings on it and not move forward. So I think it's something that's simple, you know, doesn't, you know, you could have the developer, okay, you want to do something, you gotta do the sign.
Yep,
Yeah.
I
You just have
agree.
the criteria, and then it's
Yep.
done.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point.
Yep. Okay, I'll make it a priority.
So just bake it into the process. And,
Right.
Right.
you know, that sort of sign making is relatively inexpensive these days, you know,
Right.
depending on the
You
requirements.
get that life amplified all over the place on all these signs now, so.
Yes.
That's right. It's a branding opportunity.
Yeah, branding
opportunity.
You have the marketing department sharing the
logo
cost
on there.
there.
I can just delegate this to Donna.
There you go.
Okay. Well, before we go completely off the edge into absurdity here, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So move.
Second.
All right. Motion, Commissioner Stanton, second, Commissioner Manny. All in favor of adjourning tonight's meeting, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for your time. Good job. Have a
Need
good
to
evening.
see you a
Sorry
little
about
bit.
the